thank you to all the time we've got to spend, a few of us over the last few weeks. So Brother Benjamin was here in person. That was wonderful. So we will talk some more about that a little bit after the class. But thank you so much, brother, for being here. And man, Benjamin's got a bass voice, man. So got to get him and Mark together and just. Uh, it's funny, brother, because brother Benjamin, because you don't always hear it in your voice when you're talking. So. And then we're just sitting here in church, and all of a sudden, you know, when you have the two bass notes to choose from, ba-da or ba. Yeah, he took that one. I said, oh, wow, all right. And I wish we had more time to sing. Everybody kind of had to head home that night. We had a lot of people working.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he got to be with us for a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and it was really great. So thank you, brother. And yeah, I
Thank
want to
you.
hear more about your travels after, but that was neat to spend that time together and compare notes and stuff. And then last week for our lab, only Mark showed up, so we spent 2 hours harmonizing that song, and it was great. It was fun. So we might put a little bit up there of that tonight. And so hi again to everybody else who's on vacation. And here we go. So let me look for my theory for tonight. We'll start with the theory that might help us see some stuff. And as we said, our goal tonight is just to look at a bunch of chords and go from there and see what we can do to play with them. So I just want to look over our chords again really quick. I think we know our 1, our 4, and our 5 pretty well by now. Hopefully we can recognize it, know where they come from. You really got to know that to be able to catch pretty much what we're doing. A few others, we're probably going to get into the minor ones a little more next week. I'll just let you know that the next ones that are used are probably the 6. 6 is very common. This minor chord here. And we may take a quick look tonight at both the 6, just a quick look, and the 3. But not so much as minor chords. They are minor chords, but we'll see where they kind of sneak in and appear as something else. And I want to make sure I cover that because this is something that's very common in regular harmony writing, and then we'll go from there. So any questions about our basic triads here, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 3, 5, right? The root, remember it's called the root, the third, and the fifth. Every chord, that's how it's built. Root, third, fifth, right? Any questions about that? Nope. Okay, then I'm going to make a copy of this and start working with it here. What should we? Yes, Mark.
Is there any way you could send me something that has all the list of the chords, like the C, the D, all the major and minor chords?
Yeah, that's kind of a long list.
I mean, just like what you have there.
Right, probably something online because what happens, what we haven't talked much about yet is the different keys. So, me and Mark have been talking about how to recognize this if you're a musician and if you've played these before. So, basically, what we have here is the key of C. You've got C major, then D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and this is called the diminished. We won't get into it right now, and then you're back to your C major, right? But that's only in the key of C. When I move this somewhere else, then the names could be different because of flats and sharps, things like that. And the great thing about the solfege system is it works in any key. And we're using it for this class because otherwise it would take a while to go down that path. Like it would take a lot of music theory to get to where you can understand it all. But the great thing about the solfege system, do, re, mi, fa, so, is you just change keys and you don't have, people who are new at this can still understand all the concepts. And so that's why we're doing this, even though it's a pretty short class, right? There's a chance to learn quite a few things. All right, so I'm going to start by getting rid of what I have here for now. And we're going to look at some things that we can do to play around with a basic chord, right? So here I have my basic chord. It's a 1. And I'm just going to do a couple things that are different. Let me do probably all whole notes. Okay, so what is different? What did I do? I played with something, basically. I took this chord and I changed it into something. What did I change it into?
The first, the fourth, and the fifth now, right?
Right, so now we have a first. Well, man, the first we call the root. So, but yeah.
Okay.
So you got the root, then you got the fourth and the fifth. And basically I took, let's see here. I took your major chord and I moved one note. Which note moved? Two of them stayed the same. And which note moved?
The third.
The third moved up to
The fourth.
Or another way to say it is, mi moved up to fa.
Fa.
Right? And then in just a minute, right after that, in this case, I'm gonna go right back. This is what often happens when this goes away. Where does fa want to go to? Me, right? And actually, a lot of times, this kind of stuff happens backwards. So usually what you would see is maybe starting from this measure, that, and then moving to this. But I'm showing you where it came from. It comes from this major chord, and we just changed something a little bit, kind of playing with it, and then we're moving back to it. So let's listen to what this sounds like. It's not handling my sound too great, but can you hear that there is something moving in there? There's a line moving. Do you hear that moving? Okay, let me start right here and just see what it sounds like if we start with that chord by itself. And something is unresolved, right? Something's not there yet. And this is called a suspension. When we take that 3, the official word, there's different ways of calling it, but a 4-3 suspension. When we take the third here and then we bring it up, right, and away from where it belongs, but then we drop it right back into where it belongs. And it's called a suspension because when you listen to this, you're not going to hear that one chord, but you are going to hear it's almost there. You're going to hear it's heading there, and what needs to change, your brain actually will usually already know. Can you tell that it's not the last chord yet? It's not that feeling of finality yet, but... And then it gets there, right? Are we able to catch that?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a bit more of a modern sound because if you notice, there's no thirds here. And older harmony is all based on thirds. So as soon as you get into this sound, you get into a little bit more of a modern sound. I like it. I use it all the time. Let me see. Let me find one of the examples that I brought up here. It's one of the songs that I've written. Who in Rome died and were buried too. What's going on in the harmony here?
Innocent?
It's unison. That's right. Everything's all the same, right? So we're starting with unison.
Walk in a new life, following the teaching that they receive through faith in Jesus Christ. Those who had been baptized.
Okay, so let's make sure that it's big enough. Can everybody see all right? What happens here on that the little end of the phrase? Baptized. What chord is this? Okay, ignore this for a second and look at this chord right here. What chord is it?
1.
It's a
1.
1, right? So what happened here? Let's go back and take a look at what we play with. We're going from mi, and instead of a mi, we're putting a fa. And by the way, you notice the two notes that are close to each other here? They're close to each other, right? So they're kind of going to bump into each other. And usually what happens when that happens, the bottom one wants to get out of the way, right? And that works great because fa likes to go to mi, right? It's just perfect. That's why it's one of these beautiful, perfect chords. So you will see this happen sometimes where I recognize that that's almost a 1. It's just one little note off, and then it resolves into what it wants to be, you might say. Okay, so that's what's going on here, right? What do we have? We have a 1 chord, but just one note is off. What note is off here? That's a fa. Can you see it? And then it drops down to a mi, right? And it's usually in the harmony. So one of the great things about this is it's a way to kind of make a note last longer and still be interesting, because it could have just been those who had been baptized. That could just be the background. But instead those who had been baptized. There's something happening, a move happening in the background.
Those who had been baptized.
So do you hear that? The melody, there's nothing changing, but there's a changing in the background.
Those who had been baptized. Oh, come to the water and come to the Spirit. Come to the Lord Jesus Christ. Be buried with him and die to your sin.
What happens on sin? Recognize that chord? I need to go back.
The 1?
No, it's not a 1. Let's see. I need to go back to where would this be? This one. Okay, so let's figure out what that is. Let's go back to this and let's analyze it. Got 3 notes there. So what are they?
Do, mi, la.
Do what?
Do, mi, la.
Sorry. What is it?
Do, mi, la.
Yeah, do, mi, la. So then if we were to go back here, can you find a do, mi, la in there somewhere?
The 6.
It's the 6. There it is. And actually the order would be la, do, mi. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fine. We haven't memorized that one yet. But what is this? What's unique about the 6?
Minor.
It's minor, right? So you get a different feeling from minor. And we haven't done too much with minor, but we'll be looking more at it. All right, so
Buried with him and die to your sin. Rise to walk in a new life with all those who have been baptized.
So what happened here at the end once again?
Suspension.
That's that suspension. So the fa goes to the mi. And then you kind of have to look at it around this way, but then you have that full one chord, do, mi, so. But first, wait for it a little bit. That's one of the great things about music. Wait for it. I know what you want to hear, right? But this tells you we're coming to the end, and just wait for it for one more second.
Those who have been baptized.
Okay? Are you able to hear that? Wave at me if you're able to hear that. If you do get, because again, remember, harmony is a lot about feelings. So that's our suspension. That's one thing we can do. And I'm just going to go through several possible things that we can do. And this will help us to explain some of the weird things that happen in harmony. So now we've got this one again, right? So here's our regular one. Here's another thing that could happen. Oops. All right, what is going on here? Once again, we've played with it just a little bit. So only one note has changed, right? What note has changed?
The mi.
Re.
Yeah, the mi went down to re, right? This is a very, very modern sound. You're not going to hear this much in old harmonies, but it's good to understand. And where is this re going to want to go? It's going to want to go back to me, right? It's going to want to find its way again. And basically, I don't have to keep drawing this. I'll just copy it. We're going to want to find our way back to where we came from. So let's hear what that sounds like. Okay. So again, usually you will see this kind of thing first. You'll see the funny looking one first, and then it will find its way. It's kind of falling to where it wants to go. But I'm starting with the one so you can see how it got to where it is, right? You modify the one to get to where it is. All right, let me copy this down on the next line so we can still see the one, and let's play with it some more. Let's do this. We'll still keep that in the bass, helps us. Oops. So what have we here?
Re, mi, sol.
Yeah, we have a re, mi, sol. So what note has changed? We're changing in a different spot now.
Do.
Do was the one that went up to re. Okay. And this one, you're going to start to have this, these two notes again rubbing up against each other. So what do you expect is going to happen? That re is going to want to do?
Go back down to do.
Go back down to do. So let's just hear what it sounds like by itself first. And again, that's a very modern sound. Some modern music, you'll just leave it hanging there. You won't even resolve it. But we're going to hear what it sounds like when you do resolve. Okay? And so we're getting reasons for all of this, right? Why it works. Let's look at a really weird one that we'll probably almost never do. Later. Thanks. What do you think of this one? This is something that we almost never want to do, but it can be done tastefully. So almost everything illegal, remember, it's not against the Bible. It's against established musical rules. Almost everything that's illegal you can do in a tasteful way, but it's not easy. So usually we never want to put the third and the fourth in the same place. Okay, later on we can talk about that, and there it's like advanced ways to occasionally make it sound nice, but usually you do not want the third and the fourth in the same place, okay? So assuming this might like go back up to the sol, right? Fa, sol. We're just looking at different possibilities, but usually this is not going to happen. So usually, just a sec, okay. Usually what will happen instead, watch closely and see if you see the difference here. We'll get this. What is that?
Do, ti, or do, re, fa.
Yeah, we know what it is, do, re, fa. Where did it come from? So in this case, only one note stayed the same. And these two notes, we move those two notes. And actually, we looked at this last week. It's just another way for me to show it to you, but it's moving in thirds, right? We have mi, sol, and it moves down. They each move down one note. Now we have re, fa. Okay? And there's two ways this can move. It can move to this. And so what you have here is the fa goes down to mi. The re goes down to do. And then do stays on do. So it looks like two notes here, but actually would be like three voices. Does that make sense? Let's hear what that sounds like. Yep, not like that. And this is kind of like a double suspension. Two notes are out of place, but they sound pretty good. They're not too far because it's in thirds. Remember when we work in thirds? And the other way it could go, it could also go up. So instead of the fa moving down, I could have it moving up like that. So fa goes up to sol, re goes up to mi, and the do stays the same. Any questions so far? Is this kind of following?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's all new to us, but... And we actually said that this happens a lot. This is a way that when we move, for example, the melody says da da da. How am I going to harmonize that, as we saw last time, and still keep it a one chord, right? Instead of changing chords on every single note. This is one of the most common ways to do that. And when it goes by really quick, we usually call it a passing tone. It just flies by. But if we sit on it for a while, then we think of it as, these are the kind that we think of as suspensions, like they're waiting to go somewhere. Okay? Any questions about those yet? All right, and soon we'll be getting to some of the ones that are used the most, and it's helpful. I'm just trying to get us to see this so we'll recognize when some interesting things come up later. All right, let's try this. What have we here?
The sol moved up.
The sol moved up to the la. And Sister Uriel, are you able to hear us tonight, Sister Uriel, or do we still, can you talk this time?
Yes.
Hey, good, welcome back. All right, good.
I was just fixing my sound earlier, so.
Yay, good. Okay, I saw her holding up 6.
Yeah.
And that is correct. So this chord has now become the 6. Okay. But, and again, we'll look more at the full 6 later, but because of what's in the bass, it's not a 6 in the bass, it's still a do. This is going to sound like a slightly altered chord, slightly changed chord. It's still going to sound like a 1 to us, just a little different. We actually call it when you put the whole thing in, you can call it a 6th chord, because instead of a 5th up above, there's a 6th up above. Let's just listen to it and see what it sounds like. And often you'll hear it happen, something like that, and it'll just come right back to the 1 again. So let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, and so it gives us a slightly different sound, right? And yet, because of that in the bass, it still pretty much sounds to us like a 1. There's a change, but we're thinking, we're still keeping in 1. So let me get to one of the big songs that I want to look at tonight. We happened to sing it on Wednesday night. I was like, hey, perfect. It has a lot of these examples. Okay, does everybody know this song?
Please stay in peaceful shore, deep in
There you
sin.
go.
I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore.
Okay, so let's take a look at this first chord. Let's zoom in. What's the first chord, as it usually is?
1.
It's the 1. What happened here? What moved? Always look for what moved, right? Only 1 note moved. Everything else is the same as it was on that first chord. So what moved?
La.
Sol.
So sol went up to
La.
la, right? And that actually changes it into a 6 chord, but you don't really hear it that way because it's just one tiny little change. Your bass is going to keep telling you this is 1 1 1 1. This is do do do, and you're going to hear that as the 1 chord. And you'll see that this happens a lot here, right? It keeps going back up to that la again. And it's the thing where you can kind of like get away with that. You can make a move and you won't have to worry about, oh, let me write a new chord every time I move that note away because it fits perfect.
Deep in sin, far from. I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore.
All right, let's see. What's this one right here? This one we should recognize.
The 5.
That's the 5, plus it has the 7 in it. So it's a 5 7, right? So, ti, re, fa. There's our fa, okay? Now, this chord, crazy chord. There's a lot of things rubbing on each other right here. And it's not a chord that's used a lot, but it comes up sometimes, and it's all throughout this little verse here. So let's just look at it once, and we'll get to it a little bit later. It's so, ti, fa, la. What in the world is that? And I want to give a chance to explain some of those things tonight and how they come up. That one comes up sometimes, and some come up even more often. All right, let's look at a easier to understand one for now, and then we'll get back to that. Okay, so let's say I have my 1 here, right? Let's do this. What did that become? And what did I move? Right, the do stays the same. What did I move?
3rd and the 5th.
The 3rd went up, right, to a 4th. So it's like this one, but now I'm moving 2 notes up, right? And this becomes a chord that we should recognize. What chord is this?
4.
It's the 4, right? But once again, because I am keeping the same note in the bass, I can like think of this, and actually musicologists argue about this, some of these things, but I can think of this as either going to the 4 or that it's still a 1, but I just move these notes away and I can move them right back. So let's hear what this sounds like. All right. So did you hear that it moved away but came right back? And this is a very, very common thing to happen. Now, by the way, if we were to go ahead, and we talked about this last time a little bit, if we're to go ahead and make this a 4 with the 4 in the bass, then it would sound like this. Does that sound familiar at all? This is the opposite ending from a 5-1. Instead of a 5-1, this is a 4-1. And you usually hear this when a song says Amen. Ba-da-da-da-da. Where are we? Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da. Sorry. Amen. Right? That's the tradition, right? And so some songs, like let's pull out an example, a beautiful one that has this. Let's start from the beginning here.
On Zion's glorious.
Did we look at this song before? I don't remember. Okay, look at what happens at the beginning. First of all, we have unison, right? A unison 5 often really sounds like a 5 chord. It's getting us ready to go to 5, and then here's 1. So let's make sure we can see it. Okay, can you see the 1 chord here? All right, what do we have here? What changed? So I'll spell it out for you. You can go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying the bass moved down to
bass.
so.
And then the bass moves again, and the bass moves again. So basically what you have is you have the 1 chord, but the composer is just taking the bass through all the different notes on the 1 chord. So the chord does not change at all, but it's a cool way of on Zion's glorious, like covering all the notes, and gives the bass something cool to do while the melody does 1 note, right? On Zion's glorious, on Zion's glorious. So it's a fun thing to do. Bass guys, take note. You can move your bass around a little bit sometime when the chord stays the same. Okay, so let's go.
Stood
Same thing,
numerous hosts redeemed by blood. They hymn their king.
Look at what we have here. They hymn their king in strains. So we have a 1, and I'm going to spell it out for you fast. 1, 5, 1, 5, 1. Great little effect, right? So sometimes you don't want to change chords a lot, but sometimes you want a little effect like that. That's the chord you get there.
They hymn their king in strains divine.
I have a question for you, and this will come up later. What chord is this?
1.
It is a 1, but it doesn't sound like a 1. You know why? What's in the bass?
Sol.
Sol is in the bass. And so it actually is telling me, hey, I want to be a 5. And look what it turns into right here. If you go here and then look at what it turns into, what is this chord if you use that?
A 5.
That's your 5. So again, musicologists will argue about this. Is this a 1 on top of a 5? Or is it actually a 5 that's just kind of suspended a little bit? And that's what we want to learn tonight. It has that feeling, right? And then goes to the 5. And this is very common. I want to make sure that we look at this today because some of you are already using it in your songs. And it is very common, and I want to make sure that we kind of get used to it. Okay?
I heard
Let's hear that again.
divine. I heard the song and stroke.
Oh, there we are again. What's this? Look at it again. What is this?
Looks like a 1.
It's a 1. But the bass is telling us not yet. And so this is what usually happens. You have a 1, 1, and finally, okay, I'll be a 5. There's our 5 right here, including the fa. And then that will take me to the final 1 with the bass where it belongs. Okay, So this is actually a way of making it even longer, a wait even longer to get to that final 5-1. And almost all songs have that in it. So that's why I wanted to cover it a bit.
Joy, I heard the song and strove to
Over the 5, the real one.
Hear all who suffered sword or flame for
All right.
truth or
Be great
Jesus' love.
Great to hear every verse, right? But we're getting the idea of that. So
Who like me?
what do we have there?
thy
It's a duet.
praise
Only
should
2 notes.
sing. O Almighty
And we want to get to the end.
King, holy, holy, holy.
Here, just this part.
Holy.
Okay, what chord is this? It's all
1.
it's all 1. Even with the changes, it's all 1. What's this chord?
5.
It's all 5. Even with the changes, it's all 5. What is this? It's the La, Do, Mi. And that is the 6. Okay? So let's listen for this. When we get that, we're going to get the minor. We'll get that serious sound.
Almighty King,
1,
holy,
5, and then here comes the 6.
Holy Lord.
And I will just walk you through it. It's a 6, 4, 1. A lot of things going on. We want to get to the end. Some of the little tricks in here we may cover at the end, but we want to get to the end. Let's take a good look at this ending. How many of you sung this ending before? You know the ending? It's beautiful, right? It's just one very simple thing. What chord do we have here?
4.
And this is
1.
4,
4.
1. 4, 1. Right? So that's all it is. This is the amens, right? Except we're using the word holy, and we just sing them again and again. And everything's beautiful because, okay, we got do, do, we have la. Where does la want to go? La, so, right? Fa, mi, fa, mi. And for bass, this is very common. Fa, do. To go from the 4 down to the 1. Okay? Beautiful, beautiful.
Holy.
Sorry, I was singing it in a different key. But anyway, it's beautiful, whatever key.
Holy. Holy. Holy.
And what happens when you're holding that next to the last note, right? You know where it's going, but it holds on. And that allows us, we're talking about the most important things, whatever we're thinking about in the song, that allows us to think about it more, right? So obviously, holy is what we're thinking as we're singing it. And whatever part you're singing. So the most important part's harmony.
Holy.
So let's
Holy.
that's the alto, right? Held out and it falls. The tenor.
Holy.
And you just know where it's going to go. It resolves.
Holy.
And just so you know, musically, when you're singing, usually we let go of it a little bit, like we push it a little bit when we're suspending it, like, hey, look at this, it's not where it belongs, and then drop it back.
Holy.
Right? The soprano.
Holy.
Soprano doesn't change. So what makes soprano interesting? It has two notes, but what makes it interesting? Change in the harmony, right? And finally, the bass is what gives us the roots.
Holy.
Hey, that didn't come out bad. My voice is a little bassy today. I'm always happy when that happens. Doesn't happen very often. These guys can do that any day. All right, so any questions about that so far? That would be our, right, 4, 1. But instead of that, if you don't get that, then it almost sounds more like it's still a 1. But we know we're coming back into it. All right. Let's see. That may be as far. Oh yeah, there's one other one I wanted to do. Check this out. Okay, so we've got this, and I think we understand that now. What if we were to see this? This is a really cool chord. I mean, this is very modern. Let's see, what measure was that? Oh, you hear that up there? Okay. What do you think of that chord? Again, unless it's in a very modern setting, it would probably tell you, I don't know if that's where it should stay. It's probably going somewhere. But let's look at how it got there, okay? We started with the 1, and then we moved up in thirds, and then we moved up in thirds one more time. Can you see that? And this is really stretching harmony. We're way off now. But let's look at what were to happen. Well, first of all, okay, let's hear how we got there. And now that chord doesn't sound so bad because we went there, right? We heard it moving. And then what will often happen is we'll go back down backwards the same way we came. So let's listen to that. Did that make sense to our ears? So that's where it comes from. It's this movement in thirds. Now, getting rid of this for just a second, let me ask you a question. If this is my 1, right? I added one weird note. I added the T, but just ignore that for now. What note is missing here if this is a 1?
The third.
Me.
The mi, right? The third. So watch this. This is what we will often do. We will take that third and put it down here in the bass. It's a nice little trick, and it happens a lot in a lot of songs. And let me just change it around here. Give me a second. Because it will often happen something like this. So let's hear that. It's a very nice little chord progression. So I added that weird note T, but usually the bass will go up, fill in that extra note, and then it takes us beautifully into our 4. Question, Abigail?
When you add the T, Isn't that just the seventh to the
Yes.
one? Okay.
Basically, yeah, it makes it a seventh. And again, in modern writing, we might just let that seventh sit there, but in classical writing, they kind of it's a little out of place, and this is what often happens to fill it in. And I think it's right there in our song. Let's see. If not, I can find a few more examples, but I think it's right here. Let's see.
From the peaceful shore, in within, sinking to the master of the sea, heard my despairing cry.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
From the waters lifted be.
It's right there. From the waters lifted. What do we have here? It's a 1. Lifted me. I got a T in there in the melody. That's weird. And so I could either completely change the chord, turn it to a 5, or instead, this is one of those classic chords, exactly what I did. Ignore the T. What chord do you have here underneath?
1.
It's the 1, right? And what did he do with the bass? He filled in that me there. And this is a classic chord. You'll find this all over the place. And so what that's doing for us, and what it does is in a whole lot of hymns, is when I have a T, I have a choice. I could turn it into the 5, but I could also make this little move and not get to the 5 yet. And the reason I want to cover this is because it's so common in so many hymns. And I think some of you are already writing these things because you've heard them so many times and you're already doing it. And this will just give you a little idea of why and able to catch a few more things. All right, so that's as far as we go with that. Let's just do one more quick thing. Let's transpose all this. If I were to take this, and let me just start drawing it. It'll be easier. Okay, what is this? What chord? It's a 5. Yeah, it's a 5, right? So all the things we did with the 1, you can do the same things with the 5. And I want to mention that because some of them are very common. All right, so what is this? What did I do? What note did I move?
The T.
The T moved up to the do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be that 4-3 suspension. It's a little harder to see maybe because you're used to looking at it from the 1's perspective, but that's the 3rd here. It goes up to the 4th and it comes back to the 3rd. Okay, so this happens all the time in lots and lots of songs. So let me bring up, let's see, which song did we have? This one.
Following the teaching that they receive through faith in Jesus Christ, those who had been baptized, oh, come to the water and come to the Spirit, come to the Lord Jesus Christ.
What happens right here? Again, look here. Usually if you hear something that's kind of suspended, look to the end to see what it actually is. Can we see these notes okay? What is this?
The very...
Sorry. Okay, what chord is this? It's a 5, right? But what did we do with this me? Again, usually
Moved it up to do.
if you look backwards, right? So that do there does not belong in the 5. What it's saying is, I'm gonna be a little bit out and bring it right back in. And this is just so common, even in some older songs, because what it does is it, instead of just holding a 5, it makes it a little more interesting. It makes it last a little bit longer.
Baptized. Oh, come to the water and come to the Spirit. Come to the Lord Jesus Christ.
So do you hear how it extends it? Adds a little bit? And the reason I want to bring that up is because I think it will help a lot of our songs. It seems to happen a lot that right in the middle of a song, you get this 5 chord that just kind of sits there. And my recommendation for a lot of these is going to be that we go ahead and throw this suspension in there. And I wanted to make sure you understand why and you're not surprised. Looking back over all the theory we've looked at, next we're going to jump into the songs. Let's just look back at what we saw. You take a chord and you play with it just a little bit to make it do what you want to do. So let's go back and look at everything we saw. It's not doing what I want it to do. There must be a reason. I know, I'm not clicked in there. Here we go. All right. 1, suspension, the 4, back to the 3. Here's a re going to mi. You know what? Let me make it all slower so we can just walk through it. Then we're going to go up to that fa, mi, re, mi. And here we put it on the bottom. Re, do. Here's 2 suspensions at once, 2 notes. Or moving up. Now this one goes up to the la. Because we have the same bass, still sounds like the 1. And then here's our trick for the T. Great chord. Okay? And the last thing we learned is that you can do the same thing with the sol, with the 5 chord. All right, that was a lot of theory, but the idea is this is going to really help us at key times in our songs. Okay? Any questions on that before we jump to our break? All right, after the break, the songs. All right, so let's have a break for about 10 minutes. And then we'll be back. See you guys soon.